Finally stepped in and managed to get his heat fire. Well, we were glad because we had every last bed in the hospital was full. We were almost to the point of putting 2 patients in every bed.
Wow.
We didn't quite get that far. We had them everywhere we could stick them. The dining room was full of patients. There was somebody in the bathtub.
Wow, that's crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was bad off. He was a Circassian and his leg was broken, and it went rotten and stunk.
Oh, geez.
And so they had to have him in the bath because every day they had to spray his wounds with the shower spray to wash off all the putrefying flesh. But he was a Circassian and he never howled about anything.
Wow.
His mother did. His mother had married late. I guess he was born when she was 48, 49. And so she knew she'd never have any more except just this one boy, whose name I never could pronounce. Because Circassian is the impronounceable words. Maybe Nightmare else could pronounce them, but nobody else can. And they had to wash this wound every single day. Well, they finally took his leg off and gave him a prosthesis. But they won't do that unless they absolutely can't do anything else, because no prosthesis is as good as your leg.
True. No
And
matter
even
what.
worse is a missing arm,
Right.
because there just is no prosthesis that can be made to imitate an arm. First of all, you can't feel with the prosthesis,
Right.
and that's what your hand is good for. And little babies, the reason babies stick things in their mouth is not because they think they can eat it. It's because their mouth is more sensitive than their hand. So they stick it in their mouth to figure out what it is. Because that's what babies do. That's what babies are supposed to do, is stick things in their mouth.
Right.
Grab everything they see and stick it in their mouth. Then they can find out what it is.
Where were you working at 83?
83 I was
Same
in
hospital.
Spot.
The same hospital still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was there her whole
I was
career.
going to church and all those cars were going north and north and north. And in Hebrew you say, Zeh lo motza hen b'einai. That does not find favor in my eyes.
Yeah.
To see a lot of army vehicles going north to the border.
Right.
That does not look good. That's what one of my physiotherapists, her husband, she and her husband used to live in Ramat Aviv, just next door to the chief of staff's driver. And the afternoon of Yom Kippur, they saw the chief of staff's driver come running out and jump in his car and drive off. And he said, Zeh lo motza hen b'einai, nor should it.
Yeah.
He was right. That was not a thing to find favor in your eyes. If the chief of staff's driver was driving off someplace in a hurry,
Tell us about Lebanon, 83.
83, we had a lot of Lebanese people. And believe me, I think it was in some of the magazines that people didn't believe it, that they had kids in their army. And they were all dressed in little cut-down uniforms, army uniforms. They came into the Tzfat hospital. If you lost your razor, you wouldn't ask one of those kids if you had it, because he wouldn't even know what it was good for.
Right.
And the x-rays, you could tell they were kids, you know, because if you see an x-ray of a bone, your bone has what they call the epiphysis. It's the line of, what do you call that stuff? It's not bone yet. It hasn't calcified.
Yeah, it's growth plates.
Yeah, it's a growth plate. It's, oh, I know what it's called, and I can't remember it. But squid reminds me of that. I don't know why anybody ever bothers to eat squid, because it's just like that stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, if you saw their x-rays, their epiphysis was an inch wide, for peak's sake.
Wow.
They were kids.
Yeah. And these were Lebanese soldiers that came into the hospital.
Yes, these kids were in the Lebanese army, and they're sending their kids out to fight the Israel army, which is one of the toughest armies in the world.
Right.
And it just bothered me no end to see those kids. Because, of course, they were up on the front line. They weren't defending houses at the back. They were up on the front line.
Right.
If you read that book, Old Jerusalem,
Please.
it has a real funny thing in it. This guy was running into a house, and he had his Uzi, of course. He said I was running down the hall, and I could see a rough, tough-looking soldier was coming at me. Hadn't been shaved for heaven knows how long. He was dirty. He was rugged-looking. He was real tough-looking. So I let off a burst, and the mirror shattered into fragments. It was him, and he didn't know it. He didn't know how frightening he looked.
Yeah, didn't recognize himself. Wow. Was there anything monumental for you in '83 with the Lebanese war beyond the child soldiers?
That was what I remember the best
Okay.
about that.
Where did you
I
have to-
remember
where did you
going
have
to
to meet
church
for
and all
church?
seeing all the army going north and things.
Where was church at that point?
Where were we meeting?
That was still the Mormon house down in
Yes,
Jerusalem, right?
that was still in Jerusalem.
You spent years getting to Jerusalem for church.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds like 12,
Then
15
when
years.
Avram Gilad was baptized, he was ordained to the priesthood, and he was living in a cave out in the Berea forest. So I went out there on Shabbat. He would ride with me within walking distance of his cave, and then he would get out because he didn't want to ride on Shabbat. I wouldn't find the cave without him. Well, we could sing anything we wanted to because he was actually a musician who could read music
Okay.
and had a very nice voice. So he would just pick out, I'd take my hymn book and he would just pick out hymn that looked good to him, and I knew most of them anyway, so we would sing. Then I took a piece of white cloth out there and we had the sacrament on a rock. And then we would open up the scriptures and start talking about the first thing we saw. Well, that was kind of nice. And then I could go back because I had to be in for this paralyzed woman. I had to move her legs to keep her blood circulation going in, and I had to give her breathing exercises
Right.
to make sure she could breathe. I do like people to breathe.
Yeah, it's important. I
Some
highly
some
advocate.
reporter went around asking a bunch of Canadian women what kind of a man that they found the best. And a woman that worked in the operating theater said, I'd like him to be conscious. And one guy wrote about the Japanese women against war, and it was the Japanese women. Apparently the Japanese women, especially the teenage girls, they didn't like the idea at all about kamikaze
Right.
pilots, because there's one guy that was here said, yeah, live men make better husbands than dead men. I don't know who's going to argue about that.
Right.
And well, if I was going to have a husband, I'd just assume he was alive, and I just assume he was conscious.
Yeah. And breathing.
But not the two guys that proposed to me. I didn't want them.
Okay.
One of them didn't have a book in his house. Can you imagine me married to somebody that doesn't have a book in his house? He didn't even subscribe to the 4-page weekly newspaper out there.
Really?
He didn't think of getting married until he joined the church. And then he read where it says you can't get in the celestial kingdom without being married. So he took it seriously, and we all believed that he was going down the list of all the unmarried women in the district and proposing to every last one of them.
Was that here?
And since my name begins with S, I was pretty far down the list.
Right.
Well, when I was released, he wrote a letter to me to propose to me, and he said right at the end, real romantic, and I'm proposing to your companion as well, in case you don't feel like it. And I thought, well, yeah, that's good, that's great.
There's a winner.
Yeah, that's really good. And she was already engaged to somebody else, so she had out.
Wow.
She said afterwards, no, his name is Laurie Edwards. Her name is Mary Beth Salmon. She said, I hadn't decided to marry him when I was your companion. I said, you didn't. Well, we ate Laurie Edwards for breakfast, dinner, and supper. I got tired
Tired of hearing about him.
of hearing about him.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to marry him, even if you didn't.
That's funny.
And same as my sister. She got engaged to a guy that was a missionary at the same time I was.
Uh-huh.
And
Where did you serve your mission?
Western Canadian.
Okay.
I wanted to go someplace exotic, but they sent me to Western Canadian.
Which wasn't too far from home.
Well, me too, and I got sent to California.
My nephews got, one of them went to Samoa and another one went to Romania.
Okay.
That was handy because We had, there's caregivers over here. Most of them are from Hong Kong or Philippines,
Right.
and they have it tough. They're supposed to have a day off every week, but they don't always get it. They have to supply what they call replacers. The company that brings them over here doesn't have to be responsible for getting
Right.
somebody to relieve them. And they can't leave unless they have a replacer, and they have to find this replacer. Well, this woman was from Romania. Well, she was working for a woman whose son spoke Hebrew and spoke English. And he took her around to see Mormon things because he knew she was a Mormon. She had a Book of Mormon in Romanian. And he took her in to see the BYU Center. And there they said, well, I was the Relief Society president up here. So they sent me a notice that this woman was at such and such a place. So I went there and got lost 50 times before I found the house. Because I told her I have no sense of direction. Well, I went in there, and I'd taken my nephew's daughter who'd been in Romania and spoke Romanian. And Angela was delighted. The woman's name is Angela Suciu. She was delighted. At last she could speak to somebody in Romania about the gospel. Well, she was delighted to have Rachel there. But I didn't have Rachel every time. But then she started learning Hebrew from the television.
Nancy,
And this
come and help
woman would
me,
not
please.
help you do what? This woman was always saying, come help me, but she never says what to do, what she wants. So how can we?
Wants attention.
Well, then she got so she was speaking Hebrew. Then we could communicate. But what I did in the first place, my newsman, the newspaper agent, was from Romania, and he could remember Romanian to write. So I got him to write her a letter and say, I dictated the letter. Every month, the first of every month, write your testimony and send it to me, and I'll get it translated, and I can read it in testimony meeting. And then you will be able to take part in the branch testimony meeting, because I'll read your testimony.
What year was that?
Oh, I don't remember. It was in
Sounds like 80s.
it was in the 80s sometime.
And you were meeting up here for church? In the Galilee? By
We
that time you
were
had the
meeting in
branch house.
Hanson's house in McMurray, Arden.
Okay.
Mike's parents.
Yeah, Marlon and Margaret.
Yes.
Okay.
Zachar Baha, both of them.
Yeah.
80 years too late, but never mind that.